He told me he had that person break my heart as terribly as he did because he was not the person God has for me. So he had to break my heart so that I wouldn't go back. Because if he had only kind of like, made me sad a little bit, or he hadn't really just completely broken me, that there's a chance I might have given him another chance. But because he did me so bad.
We getting money. When Jameer sharing gems with a getting money. Getting a line, growing money and time. Getting money. It's your life, trying to give more life. Getting money.
What's up, money getters? It is Gwen Jameer here with today's episode of the Get Money Show. I am so honored to have this conversation today that we're going to have, because this conversation is going to really allow me to be really vulnerable with you and share with you pretty much all the reasons as to how YouTube has completely shifted the whole trajectory of my life. As of the time I am making this video, I have like 65 subscribers, and I'm so excited for all 65, because literally like a couple of days ago I had like 41. I hadn't even posted a new video, and just the fact that 65 people want to hear what I have to say about anything is just super humbling, and I feel so honored for you to be spending your time with me, because there's literally millions upon millions upon millions of other people here on YouTube, or probably billions across the internet, and you're choosing to stick with me right now. And so that is nothing that I take for granted. I spend a lot of time outlining the videos and scripting them and making sure that I'm researching them thoroughly so I can give you super accurate, up-to-date information about your business, your money, personal finance, all those things, because it's my mission to help you build a business that gets you to the money faster so that you can have the money and the freedom to live the life that you want. And I don't take that for granted. So thank you for being here. And thank you to all 65 people. This is just really incredible, but I'm having so much fun with making these episodes, and I look forward to them. But there's a time not too long ago, like as recent as like 3 months ago, when I wasn't making YouTube videos. I wasn't utilizing this channel at all. And I kid you not, I was so lost in the sauce. I did not know why I was here. I remember asking God specifically, like, God, please tell me why I'm here. Let me know what you want from me, because I really feel like I have no purpose. And to some people that may sound crazy, because it's like, well, you've built a business and it's been really successful. And it's not like I wasn't happy. Like they always say, like, money doesn't buy happiness. I wasn't necessarily unhappy. I was just feeling like I had fulfilled the purpose that I was supposed to fulfill. And then it was like, what's next? And I don't know if you've ever felt like that, but just feeling completely lost, like you're just wandering around, not knowing really what to do. And I'm a person who loves to add value to people's lives. Like if I do it, especially if it's business related, if my name is on it, it's going to be top notch. It's going to be super high quality, and it's going to be a transformative experience for the person receiving it. I have no interest at all in creating another one of many, or just another channel, or just another product, or just another widget, or anything. I don't. And so for me, it was like, I did not know anymore how I could add value to people's lives outside of my hair care company. And I had been doing that for so long that I loved it. And I love my customers. But it was like, okay, I've kind of reached the peak of this, and I'm still there, and I'm still doing that. But what now? Like, who else can I serve? How else can I be of value to people who maybe aren't interested in hair products, or maybe aren't the target demographic for those hair products? And I remember going to church. I actually attend Transformation Church, which is out of Oklahoma. I remember flying from Michigan, where I live, to Tulsa, Oklahoma for my church's conference. And shout out to Transformation Church in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Pastor Mike Todd, that's my pastor, that's my church. I flew there for the conference, and this is like a year and a half ago. And this is around the time when I was just like, God, please send me a sign. I don't do well with subtleties. Like, I need clear and convincing signs, and God knows this. We have a conversation, and God knows, like, don't send Gwen nothing subtle. Let her know for real what you want her to do. And so I went to the conference, and I remember being in the stands, and it's an enormous mega church, and there's tens of thousands of people there. And I was just like, God, please tell me what you want from me here. Like, this is the place. I feel like you should be telling me what to do, how to move, where to go. I had so much fun at that conference. I met so many cool people, but I walked away with no answers. I kind of trudged through life after that. Just like, what am I supposed to be doing? Now, keep in mind, I already had 2 successful businesses running at this time. One was my hair care business, Naturalicious, and the other was a membership business. So right around that time, I ended up opening a third business. And at the same time, I met who I thought was this amazing, great love that I was gonna have forever. Now, mind you, this is a year and a half ago from the time I'm making this video. So I opened this third business. I've got this new relationship. Like, things are going great. And I'm like, okay, I still don't really know what the purpose is here, God, but I'm just gonna move through it. And everything was moving so smoothly. Everything was so great. And I was like, okay, maybe he's gonna show up and let me know what the purpose is. I put so much of me into everything that I do. I don't have anything. Again, if it's got my name on it, it's going to be top notch. And so, because I feel like that's what people expect of me, and that's what I expect of myself. And so I put, again, so much energy, time, money, resources, all of that into this third business. And it felt like I was literally birthing my new baby, right? Like, I have 2 other businesses. When I first started my first company, which is Naturalicious, I used to always joke and say that I had 2 children. I had one son, which is my real child. And then I had another child who was my daughter, and that was Naturalicious, because they both required so much of my time. If I didn't feed them, they were not happy. If I didn't give them adequate time, they didn't cooperate, all those sorts of things, right? And so that's kind of like the joke I always used to say. If you're watching this, there's a very good chance that you have a business or that you are aspiring to own a business. And if you have a business right now or you're starting to create one, you know it literally feels like you are birthing something new. And I put so much time and money and energy and effort into that third business. It was extremely emotional for me. That business failed. And I would never in a million years assume that losing a business equates to losing an actual human child. But that's the best way I can describe it for me. So I hope that doesn't offend you at all. I'm not trying to offend. I'm just like trying to illustrate how, like, the pain that I went through when that business failed, because when it failed, or in the way I viewed it, when it died, it was like I had birthed this baby. My baby died. If you are someone who has lost a actual human child, I am so sorry to hear that. And my condolences are with you. I personally haven't lost a human child, but I have friends and family members who have. And so I've seen that struggle. I've seen that pain. So my heart is with you. If this part of the video becomes a little bit sensitive, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you to fast forward a little bit, because I don't want to trigger any sort of heartache or anything like that. What people oftentimes don't realize is when a business fails, there's a lot that comes with that. A lot of people think that when a business closes, it just shuts down. You just close the doors, give the keys to whomever has the building now, and you just move on with life. And that's not how it happens. What really happens is that you close that business, you give the keys to whoever has the building now, and then you're stuck with all the bills that might come with that. There's a lot of stuff you have to take care of on the back end well after the business is closed. It's just a lot. But life is still happening for you in addition to you dealing with that closed business. And so for me, it was like the baby died. It was almost like I was still getting bills from the hospital for my now dead baby business. And those bills from the hospital were, taxes and property taxes for the building I had purchased, and the final utility bills, and any payroll that still needed to be paid past the time that the business was closed, all that sort of stuff. And it was just a constant reminder, hey, your baby died, but you still have all these bills that you have to take care of, and you got to take care of them regardless. Like, we don't care about the emotional stuff you're going through. You still have to take care of this. And so when I started that third business, it felt like I was birthing a new baby. And for it to have failed after I felt like I set it up so that it couldn't fail didn't make any sense, because with my first business, I had no money to start the business with. My second business, I had a little bit more money, but still not a whole lot of money. And in this third business, I had enough resources and capital to make it happen. And that's the one that didn't work. Maybe that's why it didn't work. I don't know. So not only do you have all these bills coming from the quote unquote hospital that your baby business has passed away, but everywhere you go, people ask you about it. Hey, how's the business going? Hey, when can I come through? When can I come visit? I gotta come to the office. I gotta come see it. And you're like, just reminded that you constantly have to talk about this. You don't want to talk about it. It's not even that you're necessarily embarrassed about it. It's just like, I don't want to talk about this, but you have to, because people are just peopling. They're asking reasonable questions. Like, when they know you started a business, most people are rooting for you and they want to know how it's going. And then you have to tell them, like, it's not around anymore. And of course, their faces always change, and there's just like, oh, and it's like an awkward moment when they don't know what to say next. And you're just like, it's okay, here's what happened. You have a little bit of a conversation about it, and then you quickly try to move on so that you're not still dealing with that. And so the business ended up failing. Around the same time, that love of my life relationship that I thought was happening completely fell apart. This man completely broke my heart, tore it into pieces, stepped all over it, just did me so dirty. And it was because he was avoidant. He found himself falling, this is his words, by the way. He found himself falling very deep into love with me, and he had already been married before. He and I had started talking about getting married. We had made vision boards together. We had planned to move to Dallas together, and then we changed our minds and decided to stay here. And he was going to sell his house, move into my house, his daughter, and was going to take over my guest room. And, you know, we were going to remodel my basement and turn it into the guest suite so that we would have a bigger guest room. Like, we had all these life plans together. Like, we weren't just planning for a wedding. I think a lot of times people are like, oh, well, you guys were planning for a wedding. Like, no, we were planning for a life. Like, we had, you know, a housing. We had talked about finances together. We had determined how much money we were going to be making as a household, how much money we were going to be able to save. We even talked about tax brackets, and like, we had figured out all these things. And he admittedly sabotaged our relationship because he got scared, because he'd been in a marriage before and that marriage failed. So he basically told me that, you know, once we broke up, that he sabotaged things in an attempt to protect himself. And he just became so mean. He went from being like this amazing person who I felt incredibly safe with. And so for the first time in my life in a relationship, I felt like I could live that soft life in that relationship. Like, I felt like I could just fall back and let him lead and allow him to be the man and allow him to do all the things. And it was so great because outside of my dad, I really never met anybody like that. My dad exemplified that for me when I was growing up, but I never saw it in my own relationships. And so to have that, it was just like, oh my gosh, like, this actually exists in real life. I can literally feel like I don't have to have a worry in the world. He's going to take care of me emotionally. He's going to make sure I'm good physically. He's going to cover me, you know, and all the things. And so when he started to pull back and I didn't understand why he was pulling back, I started to ask questions like, what's going on? Everything's fine? Like, are you mad at me for something? And he's like, no, everything's good, until eventually I wasn't even hearing from him anymore. And it was so out the blue. Like, I promise you, it was so strange. I just didn't understand it. Now I'm crying because I'm like, he's not even calling me anymore. I felt like I was in high school again. This is crazy. So he went from being this extremely kind, sweet person who I always felt like had my back. Like, he would literally say, I got you, until it was very clear that he did not have me anymore. And I struggled so much when that relationship ended because I just couldn't understand why or what it was. And it really took me going to therapy to figure out that it wasn't me. It was him who had an avoidant attachment style. And so I was dealing with the breakup and the business failing at the exact same time. So here I am already asking God, what do you want from me? I think he kind of has me on a pretty good path and everything's going well. I got this great relationship. I got this brand new business, and all of that good stuff suddenly goes down the toilet. And it's just like my life is spiraling. I was completely lost, even more so than I was originally. I fell into this extremely deep depression. Like, I looked fine on the outside, but on the inside, I was a zombie. I'm a very, by nature, ambitious person, and I have a lot of drive. I'm very self-motivated. But during that time, I remember sitting on my sofa just flipping through channels like a zombie, like, and I don't even watch a whole lot of TV, but that's all I was doing. That's all I wanted to do. I had no drive. I had no passion. I had no purpose. I was literally like a shell of myself. I did not know who I was. I don't know if you've ever experienced like literal physical pain from an emotional act. My body was literally in pain. Like, my stomach was in knots. My heart felt like it was literally hurting. My body was sore just from the strong emotional spiral I was going through with him. And that was probably the worst time of my life that I can remember. I was crying daily, again, asking God daily, like, why am I here? What do you want from me? What's my purpose? Do I have a purpose? Like, is it time for me to go? I have never actually shared this with anybody. Again, this is one of the reasons why YouTube has completely saved me, because it's given me so much purpose. And I'll get to that in just a minute, but I'm gonna finish the story. I just felt so isolated, so by myself. Like, I felt no one understood me. It was hard for me to have this conversation with people, because although I could have the conversation with my friends about the relationship ending, and they were so there for me. I remember being on the phone with one of my best friends for like 4 hours talking about this situation. I started going to therapy, and my therapist, who is incredible, really helped me to understand a lot of what was going on, helped me to not blame myself for the demise of this relationship, realizing that there's nothing that I could have done. And that's not to say that like, you know, I'm a perfect human being and I'm like completely without fault or flaw, but I didn't cause the end of that relationship. And so I thought I would never get over that. Thankfully, through my friends and through therapy, like I was going to therapy weekly to get past the situation. I completely got past it. Right after this breakup, I made the mistake of going to a Brian McKnight concert. And of course, he sang One Last Cry. I lost it. Like, I completely lost it. I couldn't breathe. I had ugly tears not coming out my nose. You got to remember, this is not just because of the breakup, but also that my other business failed. My third quote unquote baby died. So it's like, I got this heartbreak over here. I've got this heartbreak over here. It's just too much. It's team too much for me. And I was a whole hot mess. Like, I'm at the concert, you know, boohooing, crying. The lady next to me is like, do you need some tissue? And I'm like, yes. And you know, she's giving me the tissue, and you know, it was crazy. I could just hear a song at that time of my life and just like break down. Also, Whitney Houston's Why Does It Hurt So Bad? That song, oh, I don't know why I kept hearing all these old songs about bad breakups, but it was just like, it was almost like I was manifesting this stuff coming to me because it was always on my mind. Again, feeling a lot of isolation, just like no one could understand, because although again, I could talk to my friends about it, stay on the phone with me for hours about the relationship, it's hard to have the same conversation about a business failing. It's hard for people who are not entrepreneurs to understand the pain, the emotional pain that you go through when you put your whole self into a business and it doesn't work out. Like, it's a very emotional thing. And so I felt like I couldn't really have that conversation with a lot of people, because quite frankly, when businesses fail, people don't talk about it. And that's why I'm so grateful for this channel, because we can be vulnerable, we can talk, we can be honest, and I can tell you like, yes, my business failed. I have other businesses that do extremely well, but this one didn't work out. And so if you haven't ever owned a business and you haven't had one that you had to close, then it's hard to comprehend, again, the emotional attachment that comes with that, the emotional pain that comes with that. When you couple that with something else so emotionally traumatic, it's just a catastrophe. And it was for me. So one day I was scrolling through social media and I got this thought in my mind that there's a difference between talents and gifts. And I've always known this, but it was so strong of a thought that I had to take some time to actually think through this. So here's the thing. Gifts come naturally. Gifts are things that you don't have to work hard at all. It just comes super, super, super easily. Think like Whitney Houston's voice. Like, that's a gift that she had. There's a lot of people who can sing, but she could sing, right? Like, there's no voice like hers. She had a gift. Although she could mold it and hone it and practice it and, you know, take voice lessons and all that sort of stuff to really like hone her gift to be even greater than she may have had naturally, but she just had a natural gift for that. So if there's anything in your life that you just do super easily and you do it well, like extremely well, without a lot of effort, without a lot of thought, it just comes naturally to you, that is a gift. Gifts can be talents, but not all talents are gifts. So talents can often be things that you really like to do. Maybe it's a hobby and then you become really good at it through practice and through consistency and through really spending a lot of time at it, but it may not actually be a gift. For example, there's a little boy that lives on my street. He is not gifted at basketball naturally, but I remember him being outside every day practicing, every day shooting that ball, and he's really good now. But he didn't start out that way. It took him about a good, I'm gonna say almost 2 years before he was even like making baskets on a consistent basis, but he was determined. And so because of his determination and his sheer practicing all the time and him not giving up, he is a really, really great basketball player now. And that is because he honed that desire that he has, which is now turned into a talent, but it wasn't a natural gift. So I started to think about my gifts, and two of the gifts that I know that I've always had is talking and teaching. I am really great at teaching, always have been. People tell me all the time that I'm great at that. That's another way to know if something is a gift. If people are constantly telling you that you're really good at something and you think nothing of it, you're like, really? Like, I don't spend any time on this at all. That's another sign that that might be a gift for you. And so for me, talking and teaching has always been a gift. In fact, I used to get in trouble for talking in class, and I know I'm not the only one. You might have too, but I used to get great grades in school. I remember my teacher, Mrs. Brown, in high school English could not stand me because I was always talking. I was always passing notes. I could not keep my mouth shut. Like, I had to tell my friends stuff. I had to talk to my friends. Like, we didn't have cell phones back then. We certainly didn't have cell phones in school. We couldn't text each other, you know, what was going on. Like, we had to whisper. We had to pass notes. And so I used to always get in trouble. I remember every quarter on my report card, it will always say, disrupts class by talking too much. Disrupting class is a bit of a stretch because I was just talking to like one other person, like my friend next to me. But, you know, whatever, Mrs. Brown. So talking is a gift of mine. And even though I used to get in trouble for it when I was a kid, I actually make money with that gift now. I speak often. I speak all the time. I'm always speaking at a conference, at a university, at some corporate event, you know, one of those things, because I am a good talker. It's so wild to me that that's something I used to get in trouble for, and that's something now that has turned into something that actually makes money for me. But nevertheless, and I'm also really good at teaching, and that combination is really amazing. So I have this natural gift for taking complex topics and using analogies to help paint the picture of what's being taught, so much so that it makes the person that's being taught understand it so much faster and so much easier, and they really grasp the concept, and the light bulb just go, like, I see it. I see the light bulb, the proverbial light bulb go off in their heads. And so I've always been really good at that. And so when I was having this epiphany as I was scrolling through social media, these are things that I'm really good at. And that thought just kind of stuck with me. I didn't have any answers after that. It was just like, hey, you're really good at these two things. Okay, cool. I'm gonna put a pin in that, stick it in my back pocket. But then, like, literally the next day, people started asking me all these business questions. Now, people would ask me business questions before, here and there, but it was just like an onslaught of like folks running like to ask me these questions about their business, about a business that they were thinking about starting, about what to do about a certain concept, what to do with a certain challenge they were having in their business. And they were actively seeking my advice on business and entrepreneurship. This is months after the breakup ended. I had gotten completely over that situation. I was wrapping up everything as it related to the business closing. And so I was starting to be in a better emotional state, but I still feeling like lost and not very valuable to people. I knew that I was loved, and I knew that the people around me cared for me. But as far as me being of value to the community or being of value to, you know, society, I just didn't feel it anymore. And that's when people started asking me for this other stuff, which had nothing to do with hair. It had everything to do with business, entrepreneurship, personal finance, wealth building. These are all things I could talk about forever and never make a dime from it. And I absolutely loved helping these people shift whatever challenge they were having. And after we would have these impromptu consultations, they would always say like, oh my gosh, you are so knowledgeable about this. Oh my goodness, I had no idea that I could do that instead of this. You taught me so much today. Thank you so much. And it would make me feel so happy. It made me feel so fulfilled and grateful that they had even thought to ask me for anything. Like, they could have gone to Google, they could have gone to Reddit, they could have gone to some other person that they know who owns a business, but they came to me. And that felt so gratifying. I was filled up by that. I was so fulfilled by helping somebody else and seeing them transform whatever challenge they were having. And that brought me so much joy. For the first time, I had not experienced joy in over a year and a half at that point. But again, on the outside, I look great. If you were to look through my Instagram, you know, I'm smiling. And again, it's not that I wasn't happy, but joy is a whole nother level from happy. Like, I was happy, and, you know, I was grateful that I had a roof over my head. I was grateful me and my son have a great relationship. I was grateful that I had, you know, food in my refrigerator, and I have my dad in my life, and my sister and my nephews and all those things. But as far as like true joy, that can only come from internally. And for me, that joy comes from helping other people. And I didn't really feel that I was helping anybody anymore. And so when I started to have the opportunity to do so, because people were coming to me asking me these questions that helped them make their situations better with their businesses, despite the fact that mine had failed, it was the best thing ever for me. So one day I was laying in bed and I was woken up by a thought, and it was God speaking to me. And I know for non-believers, y'all gonna say that it was a hallucination, but I promise you it was not. It was like his voice was so loud and so clear, but it was not audible. And I know that sounds crazy. It was a thought that was in my mind, but these thoughts were not my thoughts. I can't explain it. If you've ever had it happen to you, let me know in the comments if you've ever heard God speak to you in this way, or if you've ever heard God speak to you, period, in any kind of way. I would love to know how you've heard him speak to you, because the question is always, well, how does God speak to you? How do you hear God's voice? And for me, it's happened a few times in my life, and it hadn't happened in a long time. And I knew when it happened that that was God talking to me. And he told me so clearly why he had me go through that breakup. And it made so much sense. And I was like, oh, I got it. I understand now. Because for me, it was like, why are you having me go through this? God, what did I do wrong? I haven't stolen nobody's man. I haven't cheated on anybody. I paid all my taxes. Like, I haven't done anything wrong that would warrant this level of karma. Like, what is happening here? Why are you letting me go through this? Why did you let me meet this person who I thought was going to be my everything, only to be someone who stomped all over my heart, had me crying like every day? And the thing is, I'm not a big crier. I think I've cried at one movie my entire life. So for me to be crying daily, I promise you, I cried more, like in those few months, I cried more in that period of time than I did my entire life combined. And I just could not understand why God was letting that happen to me. Like, God, why did you allow me to open this business? Why did you make it so easy for me to open this business? Why did you allow me to have all the things that I needed to right at my disposal? Even things that I didn't have personally, people showed up, or things or resources showed up that made it happen right away. Like, why'd you allow that? And while I was laying in bed that night, he told me why he allowed me to go through that breakup, and why he allowed it to happen the way that it did, why he allowed it to start the way that it did, for it to have been so great, and for it to quickly collapse. He also told me why that person had to hurt me as bad as he did. He told me that he had me meet that person because he wanted me to know what it felt like to feel loved properly, to feel like I could live that soft emotional life, to feel like someone had my back, to feel like someone was incredibly deep in love with me just as I was incredibly deep in love with them. He wanted me to know how that felt, but that person was not the person who was supposed to do that for me forever. The man that I was with was not the man that God has for me. When I was laying in bed that night, he told me, I wanted you to know how this felt so that when it shows up for real, you'll know that's it. So any person that comes to you attempting to date you, or that you think that you like, if it doesn't feel like that, then that ain't it. You know what it feels like. He told me he had that person break my heart as terribly as he did because he was not the person God has for me. So he had to break my heart so that I wouldn't go back. Because if he had only kind of like, made me sad a little bit, or he hadn't really just completely broken me, that there's a chance I might have given him another chance. But because he did me so bad, there'd be no chance that I would circle back with him and get back in that relationship because of how badly I got hurt. And it made so much sense to me. And I was like, God. And then he told me, he said, when the person I have for you shows up, you're going to know him when you see him. So I don't know who he is, but if you out there, let me know. But God told me, he said, wait for me. And I said, okay. Because one thing I do know is that the only thing harder than waiting on God is wishing that you had. I said, okay, God, I hear you. I can't say I liked his reasoning, but I understood it. It made so much sense to me. And it made me feel so much better because I'm like, okay. And he told me that I'm not ready yet. He said, you're not ready yet. I'm preparing you, but just wait for me. So that actually brought me a lot of comfort because it helped the puzzle pieces fit. Because it didn't make any sense before. Like, why is this happening? Why did this occur in this way? But again, I can't say I liked it, but I understood it once he spoke to me. So the next day I was minding my business and I was making eggs in my kitchen, and God spoke to me yet again. And it was the same feeling. It was that same, like, these thoughts are so strong, but they're not mine. And I could not stop them. It's not, how you can say like, oh, I don't want to think about that. I could not. Like, I literally had to keep, like, the thought was still there despite me, sometimes like, cause you're questioning yourself and you're like, well, is this God or is this me? Are these my thoughts or is this God's thoughts? Like, I could not get those thoughts out of my mind. And so I was standing in my kitchen making eggs, and he spoke to me again, and he told me why he had me go through the business failing. And he told me that it was because he made it so easy for the business to get started and for it to end so quickly, because I have fulfilled the purpose that he had for my life when I started the hair care business and when I started the second business, which is a membership business. He said I had fulfilled those purposes, and now he had a new purpose for me. He wanted me to be a testimony for the comeback. Like, he basically told me like the setback was a setup for the next phase of my life, for the next purpose he has for me. And that made so much sense too. Now, I will tell you that God and I had a conversation in that moment, and I was like, well, you didn't have to make me have to owe all these bills. You could have like had the business fail and me just like not have to deal with it. But I don't know why you did that part. But he did. And so I think, again, it had to be such a traumatic ending, because literally I had hundreds of thousands of dollars in bills that came from the closing of this business. And again, I've never shared this publicly. I've talked to my friends privately about it, my family, but I've never shared this publicly. So you and I are having like a real intimate conversation right now. But it wasn't like $5,000 or $10,000. It was hundreds of thousands of dollars that had to be repaid from that business failing. And I'm like, God, why did you feel the need to add that into it? Like, you could have left that part out. Like, the business could have failed and closed on its own. And without all of that, and I would have been Gucci. I would have been great. But had it not been such a traumatic ending to that business failing, there would be no testimony, right? It would just be like, oh, it failed and I moved on with my life. I still have these other two successful businesses. But because that ended, and because I went through those two things at the same time simultaneously, I can come back and I can be a testimony for God's people to bring people closer to him. I felt really grateful and honored in that moment that he chose me for that, although I didn't like it, because I was seriously like, God, I'm okay with not being on the strongest soldiers list. I don't want to do that. Like, please add someone else or take me off completely. I no longer want to volunteer for that list. I'm not here for it. But again, once he had that conversation with me, I completely understood it. God doesn't come when you want him to. He always comes right on time. And that conversation with him was right on time because I needed that confirmation and understanding of the reasoning behind all of this. Because I have been questioning for a long time. Why don't you tell me what I need to be doing? I've been asking you for a year and a half, God. You haven't told me anything that I can recognize. And I'm still feeling lost. I'm still feeling isolated. I'm like wandering with zero purpose, and my business failed and my relationship failed. And I'm just like, why are you allowing all these things to happen to me? And in that moment, God told me to use my gifts. He said, use your gifts. Now keep in mind, just a few days prior, I had a thought that said, these are two of your gifts, Gwen, talking and teaching. And it was such a full circle moment in that moment. And again, if you're a non-believer or if you don't believe that God speaks to people, I respect it. No hate for me. All I know is what I heard and what I felt. I don't have any other way to explain it. It is what it is. He literally spoke to me. So immediately after that, I started thinking about content creation. Then the person who broke my heart, he used to always say, Gwen, you're a thought leader. You're going to be a content creator. And I was like, I don't have time to create content. I am too busy running my business. I was running all three businesses at that point. I was running Naturalicious, the subscription business, and I was also running the new business, the third business that ended up failing. And he's like, you're gonna be a content creator. Like, you're so good at that kind of stuff. He's like, you know, you make videos. And I was like, I make videos for fun here and there on Instagram, but I am not a content creator. Like, I'm not about to be sending out proposals and all that kind of stuff. And no shade to them. I was like, that's not me. It's not what I do. I own these businesses and that's what I do. And that's it. And he kept saying, like, you're Gwen, you're so multifaceted. This is the person again who broke my heart. Gwen, you're so multifaceted. This is when things were good with us. You're a content creator, you're an influencer, you're a thought leader, you're a CEO, you're a mom. You know, he would just kind of run through this list of like titles he was giving me. And I just think back now, the person who was no longer meant to be in my life, follow me here, the person who was no longer meant to be in my life basically prophesized to me in a way that I was going to be doing what I'm doing right now with you. And I did not see this. I did not see me making videos. I did not see me making content on a consistent basis and actually enjoying it, really looking forward to it, clearing out my schedule of other things so I can make more content, so I can make more videos. Like, never in a million years because you've told me that I'll be sitting here having this conversation with you about my personal life on YouTube for thousands to see. Like, I would never. And well, when I think about that, and I remember he sent me an email detailing all these different titles that he had for me. And in that was thought leader and content creator. And it's so wild and crazy how people can come into your life literally for a season or a reason, and a lot of times we don't understand why. And he kept telling me this over and over and over and over, and I was like, no, that is not what I'm gonna do. Why do you keep saying that? I don't want to do that. And he kept telling me, you don't have to do it, but I can see that being your path. And I did not see it at all. And so that just further made me realize that what God was telling me about, like, he wasn't supposed to be in my life for long, made sense. right? And why he had to hurt me so bad was because he wasn't the one. He just came to, one, show me what that kind of love looked like, so that when it does show up for real, I will know it and I will know that's what it is. So anyone else who comes in between, who doesn't give me that same feeling, I don't give that same feeling to them, that's not the right person. Like, in addition to the fact that while he was there, he prophesized in a way that I will be doing what I'm doing right now. It's like, woo, it's so wild and crazy to me, because I don't even know how I explain. You know how it's like one of those things where you're just like, I don't know how to explain how all these things came together like they did, but they did. And I can't explain it any other way than it was God. I really can't. I can't explain it any other kind of way. So people continue to ask me questions about business and entrepreneurship, and again, personal finance and wealth building and parenting while running a business, having a relationship while trying to also run a business, and the challenges and the joys of that, and all those different things, and just things that I had dealt with my own personal experience in the past 11 plus years that I've owned my businesses. And I decided to pull out the camera and start to make video. Ever since then, it has been so gratifying. But even more important than what I get out of it is the joy that I have seeing other people benefit from my expertise and my knowledge and my experiences and my advice, my tips, and all those sorts of things. And I love that I have the ability to have this authentic space where I can just be me, and I can talk how I want to talk, wear what I want to wear, show up how I want to show up, and it's received with like welcoming arms. I have found my voice again. I don't feel lost anymore. I feel like I found my purpose again. It's amazing. I've been able to surround myself with a group of other people who are also doing the same sorts of things. I started to meet, just not even trying to, just somehow started meeting other people who are creating content, and they are trying to do it in a way that I'm doing it as well. And like, we converse and we have conversations and we politic, and I've like gained new friends from that, and I've gained a whole community of money getters just talking to you guys. And at the time I'm making this video, I only have 65 subscribers, but that's 65 people who want to be involved with me. That's 65 people who care about what I have to say. That's 65 people who could be doing anything else under the sun other than watching videos I make. But here you are. And I'm so absolutely thrilled and grateful for you, because as much as you get out of the videos that I create, I get so much out of it too. From seeing the transformations from people downloading my 56-page book and messaging me or emailing me and telling me how they've already started to implement so many of the gems that I dropped in the book, to people following me on Instagram and I'm sharing knowledge about specific things when it comes to entrepreneurship and business, and just giving people a different perspective to look at things from. The DMs and the comments and the messages that I get are just so amazing. And it is because of YouTube that I have actually found a purpose again. I no longer feel like I am like walking through the mud, slowly walking toward the quicksand of death, and not like knowing what's gonna happen next for me. And after all that traumatic stuff that happened to me, I am back. Like, I feel like Gwen again. And I hadn't felt like Gwen in a long time. It was really bad. But I'm back. And I feel like me again. I have like the joy. Even my therapist recently, within our last couple of sessions, she's like, "You're glowing again." And I was just like, yes! Like, I am very, very happy. Somehow I've managed to find like folks who can assist me along this journey, and I've been able to assist other people along the journey and along this like new purpose journey that I have. And again, my mission is to help you create a business that gives you the money and the freedom to live the life that you want. And seeing that what I am sharing with you and others like you is actually fulfilling that mission, it's like there's nothing better. There's nothing better than seeing people transform and me helping them do that. For I am so humbled and so grateful. So thank you for being here. If you're a lurker, don't lurk no more. Click on the subscribe button, like, comment, and subscribe, in fact, and hit the bell so that you get every single notification for every Get Money show. I really feel like this channel is different than a lot of business channels. Most business or entrepreneurship channels are like straight up, like, this is what you need to do, and this is how you do it, and this is step by step, steps 1, 2, 3, and 4, But on this channel, it's a little bit more chill, it's a little bit more relaxed, because that's just how I am in my everyday life. But I get to, again, do this how I want to do it. I get to talk to you about business in a way that utilizes my stories and utilizes my experience and expertise to help you. And I get to like be chill about it. I get to be relaxed about it. And I get to do all that. And I could not do that if I didn't have an audience. And here you are with me on the Get Money Show. I'm really grateful. I'm super happy. And again, I have joy. And thank you for listening, because again, I haven't shared most of this story publicly at all. And you know what's really funny? Like the guy that broke my heart. I'm not on any dating apps right now, but I was for a little bit after we broke up, like some months later. And do you know he tried to like get back? He tried to match with me. But again, God told me he had him hurt me as bad as he did so that I wouldn't go back. Because had I gotten that message from him and it wasn't as terrible as it was, if it wasn't wrought with so many tears and this literal body pain. I don't know if you've ever experienced like literal physical pain from an emotional act. My body was literally in pain. Like my stomach was in knots. My heart felt like it was literally hurting. My body was sore just from the strong emotional spiral I was going through. So every time you like, you comment, or you subscribe to this channel, I know that I'm doing God's work. I know that I'm doing what God wants me to do, and I'm being purpose-driven in the way that brings success to other people as well. And so make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell so that you get notifications for every single Get Money Show episode. Because again, we are here to help you get to the money faster, and you can get to the money the fastest if you are hitting that bell so that you know as soon as these episodes drop. His mission for my life now is for me to help other people achieve success with their businesses and achieve success in their personal lives as well. So again, thank you for being here. I love you, and I cannot wait until our next episode. So thank you again for joining, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.